Okay, so in the previous class, we discussed about the basic of kinematics, the basis of forces and motion, and also we talked about velocity, time, distance, displacement, vector quantities, scalar quantities. We talked about the difference between speed and velocity. What are the different types of graphs of velocity, constant velocity, terminal velocity, फिर हमने देखा था increasing velocity, decreasing velocity, acceleration, deceleration, all these graphs by studying about the speed time graphs. Then we also got to know that what properties are shown by a speed time graph. For example, the acceleration is shown by the gradient of the speed time graph. Then we also got to know that the area under the speed time graph shows you distance. So talking about an example now, describe an experiment to measure the terminal velocity of a falling paper cone. तो अब हमने terminal velocity describe करनी है एक falling paper cone की. So what am I going to do? I will determine the terminal velocity using the equation which is speed is equal to distance over time. But the thing is, for calculating speed of a falling paper cone, I need to calculate the distance first and I need time first. When I get both the values of distance and I get the value of time, yes, then I can calculate speed. So in this case, my independent variable will be the distance, which I will measure using a tape measure, one of the pieces of apparatus that I also mentioned before. यहाँ पे, if you can see, tape measure. When I was listing the apparatus in the previous class, मैंने बताया था that tape measure is used to calculate distance. Then we have the stopwatch used to calculate time. Okay. We also have a meter rule to calculate distance as well. So these are the two pieces of apparatus that you can need to calculate your two quantities. And when you have both of these two quantities, you can only then calculate speed by using the formula of velocity is equal to distance over time. My dependent variable क्या होगा? अब independent variable और dependent variable क्या होता है? I told you that independent variable is the one that you are changing yourself, whereas the dependent variable is the one that changes with it. So my independent variable will be the distance, which I would be changing myself, which I will measure using the tape measure. I will drop the paper cone from a variety of heights, starting at 1 meter, then I'll go up to 2, then I'll go up to 3, then I'll go up to 4. ठीक है, और मैं 2 मीटर के इंटरवल से भी ऊपर जा सकता हूँ. I'll take a whole range, मैं पूरी एक range लूंगा of measurements, and I'll keep changing the height, and then I'll be differentiating and comparing the speed. Note, these distances are big enough that the times will be measurable. Any smaller and they won't be. Example, my dependent variable will be the time, which I will measure using a stopwatch. I will start the clock when I drop the cone and stop when it hits the ground. So when am I going to start? ठीक है, अगर मैं cone को यहाँ से drop करता हूँ, if I drop the cone from this height, I would start the stopwatch at this point and I would stop the stopwatch at this point. For example, यहाँ पे आपको 10 seconds आया था. This is your final time and this is your initial time. ये आपके पास paper cone है that is falling through the air. I will repeat each measurement 3 times. ये आपने 3 दफा measure करनी है and then take an average. Why is an average taken? For more accuracy. If you take an average, आपके जो results होंगे they would be more and more accurate. I will then calculate the speed at each height using the above equation. I will use the same paper cone throughout the experiment and do the experiment somewhere where there are no draft which could be affecting the results. आप क्या कर सकते हैं to make your results more reliable? Number one, you are repeating each measurement and taking an average. Number two, you are using the same paper cone throughout the experiment. So there are two precautions that you have already taken in your experiment that is actually making it more and more reliable and more perfect, giving you complete accurate data with complete precision and everything else. There's an instrument, or you can call a piece of apparatus known as a light gate. Till now, for calculating distance, we've been using tape measure, we have been using meter rule, but now I'll be talking to you about light gates. Light gates क्या होते हैं? They are also calculated for using, used for calculating time. Time is also calculated by a stopwatch, but a light gate is a much better way because it reduces the random error. There's two things. One is systematic error and the other thing is known as a random error. आपको दो types of error होते हैं. एक होता है systematic and then we have random error. Systematic error क्या होता है basically? Systematic error होता है when there's a problem in the system, when there's a problem in the piece of apparatus. For example, zero error. Zero error is an example of systematic error. The problem is in the system. not in the person. You are okay, but the system जो आपने piece operates किया, that is not okay, and that is completely problematic. फिर एक चीज आती है random error. Random error is the problem which is there in the person, which is being done by the person. Person is not doing it correct. That is a random error. So stopwatch में there is a thing known as reaction time. Of course, अगर मैं आपसे कहूँ stop, so how are you going to stop? You're going to take around 2 milliseconds to at least stop. Now this is a random error and this is wrong because a person needs to think. अब एक person है, he is driving a car. Now, no, we are not robots. Okay, we are humans. We have a reaction time. If I see a duck walking across the street, how am I going to stop the truck? It's going to take me 2 to 3 milliseconds to at least apply the brakes. Then I would have a specific braking distance. Then I would have a specific stopping distance. And then at one point, I'll be stopping the car. Ekdam to nahi hota. Of course, there's a reaction time. We are humans. We are no robots. Our brain needs 2 to 3 seconds to work. So आपकी जो stopwatch है, starting and stopping stopwatch can be done by each and every person, but it would be different. हर person की, हर बंदे की value आपके पास different आएगी. So that is why we use a thing known as a light gate. Light gates are pieces of apparatus that allow times to be measured more accurately, but in order to gain marks, you must describe what they do and how you would use them. अब now when you're describing the experiment, जो आपका 6 mark का question होता है. Now when you are describing your experiment in a 6 mark question, in order to gain full marks, you have to describe what they do and how you would use them. For example, light gates can be used to accurately time the motion of objects in a laboratory. आपको light gates use करने आने चाहिए, that how should I use them और मैं कैसे उनको laboratory में use करूँगा, what are light gates, and then you're going to explain कि yes, when this car passes this light gate number 1, the time starts. ठीक है, it's connected to a timer. जैसे ही आपकी गाड़ी यहाँ से गुजरेगी, the timer is going to start, and the moment it passes the other light gate, the timer is going to stop. So this is the starting time initial point, and this is your final point. So it basically works by laser. ठीक है, यहाँ एक laser लगी हुई है, यहाँ भी एक इसके सामने से एक laser गुजरी है. The moment you have passed the first light gate, the time starts. The moment you have crossed the second gate, the time stops. A light gate can be used to start a timer when an object passes through it, blocking the light gate. A second light gate of fixed distance away can be used to stop the timer. तो एक आपके पास starting light gate है, and secondly you have a stopping light gate as well, which stops the timer. Light gates can also be used to determine the speed of an object through the gate by timing how long the gate is blocked for. अब हमारे पास चीज आएगी, दो वेक्टर क्वांटिटीज को हमने बहुत डीपली स्टडी करना है. बोथ ऑफ देम हैव वेक्टर. ठीक है, दोनों वेक्टर क्वांटिटीज है. वेक्टर क्वांटिटीज का डिस्टेंस भी होता है. So the first one is acceleration and the second one is velocity. अब इसके अंदर जो हम टाइम को भी ले आते हैं, all these three combined make up another formula that you will be seeing right now. कि इन तीनों को मिला के acceleration के लिए एक formula बन जाता है. What is acceleration? Acceleration is the rate of change of velocity. Rate का मतलब होता है divided by time, and change in velocity is final minus initial. So rate when combines with change of velocity makes v minus u over t, which is the formula for acceleration. So acceleration is the rate of change of velocity, and in other words, how much the velocity of an object changes by every second. Acceleration is given by the equation where u is the initial velocity of an object and v is the final velocity, where u is the initial velocity of an object and v is the final velocity. तो आपके पास ये फॉर्मूला है, a is equal to v minus u divided by time, क्योंकि पर rate है. rate अगर acceleration is only rate, if I say acceleration is change of velocity, तो क्या हो जाएगा, v minus u. But when I say rate of change of velocity, it becomes acceleration. Rate means divided by time. The units of acceleration are meter per second square, which means इस तरह करके लिखेंगे आप meter per second square, or you can write them like this, which means the same thing as meter per second second. The change in velocity is meter per second. तो क्या होगा, acceleration is change in velocity divided by the time taken. Acceleration is final velocity minus initial velocity divided by time taken, and we write it in the form of vf minus vi divided by time. तो ये फर्दर हमारे पास आ जाएंगे अब कुछ velocity time graphs, which we also took a look at in the previous class में. हमने थोड़ा इन graphs को हमने पहले भी स्टडी किया था. A velocity time graph shows how the velocity or speed of an object changes over time. जैसे कि this shows that it is at rest. Now this is completely different from distance time graph. You have to completely different from a distance time graph. अब velocity जो है at one point we can see कि वो zero है, क्योंकि अगर मैं यहाँ पे value लगाऊँ 0, 10, 20, 30, ठीक है, तो यहाँ पे क्या right now the velocity is at rest. उसके बाद क्या है, we can see that we have increasing velocity. Velocity increase करी है from 10 to 30, but it is increasing at a constant rate. Velocity is increasing, but at a constant rate because constant acceleration है. हम ऐसे तो नहीं कहते, the graph is not like this. This is also increasing velocity. This is also increasing velocity. But what's the difference between both of these increasing velocity? One of them has increasing acceleration. One of them has constant acceleration. Otherwise, both of them are changing velocity. Then you can see a straight horizontal line. जो horizontal line होती है, that shows constant velocity. And then this is the opposite of constant acceleration, which is constant deceleration. ये आपके पास तीन parts of velocity time graph होते हैं. Velocity on the y-axis, time on the x-axis. The acceleration of an object is given by the gradient of the graph. मैंने कहा था कि जो आपको एक velocity time graph दिया हो, a velocity time graph का जो gradient है, that shows acceleration, and the area under the graph shows you distance. So in a velocity time graph, the gradient shows you the value of acceleration. So acceleration is the gradient, which is rise over run. मतलब कि y-axis divided by x. तो y over x आपके पास gradient होता है. Now this is a velocity time graph given in front of you. ये velocity है, ये time है, ये आपको दिया हुआ है. And here you can see another velocity time graph कि कैसे है ये. ये आपके पास velocity है at y-axis and time is present on the x-axis. तो rise क्या है? ये y-axis है, run x-axis है. When you divide both of them, y over x, आपके पास जो होता है y divided by x gives you the gradient or directly the value of acceleration. Now this one only shows us constant acceleration. ये ग्राफ हमने किसका पढ़ा हुआ? This shows constant acceleration. So if at any point, whether you choose this point, whether you choose this point, whether you choose this point, let's say मैं यहाँ पे कहता हूँ time 10 है और यहाँ पे time 1 है, यहाँ पे speed जो आपकी 20 है, यहाँ पे time 2 है, ठीक है, यहाँ पे आपके पास speed is 30 and the time is 3. Now choose any point. You have 3 points, point 1, point 2, point 3. Calculate the acceleration at any point. अगर मैं इस point पे acceleration निकालूंगा, अगर मैं पहले point पे acceleration निकालूं तो क्या आ जाएगी? Y पे क्या है 30 divided by x axis पे क्या है 3. Acceleration की value क्या है ये 10. What if I calculate the acceleration on point number 2? क्या हो जाए? 20 divided by 2. Again the answer would be 10. What if I want to calculate the acceleration at point 1? तो क्या हो जाएगा 10 divided by 1. Again the answer would be 10 because the straight line shows us constant acceleration. Got it?
Yes.
Good. Again, the gradient slope of a velocity time graph is the object's acceleration. तो आपने क्या किया? You draw a straight line and then make a triangle. जब आप एक triangle बनाते हैं, उस triangle के दो parts होते हैं. One of them is known as height and the other one is known as base. ये एक base है और ये आपको height given. So the gradient slope of a velocity time graph is the object's acceleration. तो acceleration क्या हो जाएगी? Is change in velocity divided by the change in time, which is your rise over run. Note that if the graph slopes downwards, you'll get a negative value, which is an indication of an object is decelerating, which is showing you negative acceleration. How to determine acceleration? Now, if the line is horizontal, the velocity is constant, मतलब कि no acceleration. And if the line slope upwards, then the object is accelerating or speeding up. मतलब कि वो कह रहे हैं, अगर line horizontal है, for example this, velocity is constant, which means no acceleration. If the line slope upwards, then this means अगर आपको sloping upwards हो रही है या इस तरह करके हो रही है, this means that the object is accelerating. If the line goes down, तो इसका क्या मतलब है कि आपके पास जो ऑब्जेक्ट है दैट इज डिसेलरेटिंग. इसको हम पॉजिटिव एक्सेलरेशन भी कहते हैं एंड वी आल्सो कॉल इट नेगेटिव एक्सेलरेशन. ये आपके पास एक और डायग्राम दी हुई है इन व्हिच यू कैन सी ऑल ऑफ दीस टुगेदर. जैसे कि वी हैव constant velocity, straight line. We have a rapid steady acceleration. We have only acceleration. Now look at this, A and B. What's the difference? This is also acceleration, this is also acceleration, but this is rapid. इसकी ज़्यादा slope है, इसकी जो slope है or the gradient, that is more. Then we have slowing down steadily. Again, it is a straight line. And then we have increasing acceleration. Increasing acceleration की graph ऐसे करके बना है. It is always sloping upward. ये slope करता है upward की तरफ. Again, we have seen this diagram before as well. Constant acceleration, constant velocity. How do we know it's a constant velocity? Because at time 4, the velocity is still 8. Time 5 पे भी velocity आपके पास 8 है. Time 6 पे भी velocity 8 है. And at time 7, the velocity is also 8. At time 8, it is also 8. So constant velocity throughout. 8, 8, 8, 8, 8. Constant velocity का क्या मतलब है? The object is not changing speed. And when nothing changes speed, that means it is showing zero acceleration. Finding the distance. The distance traveled by an object can be found by determining the area beneath the graph. तो ये हमारे पास distance clear होता है. Let me open up a video क्योंकि I just wanted कि हम यहाँ तक आज का इतना ही पढ़ें, just the acceleration part. Let me show you a video and then I'm going to give you a worksheet for chemistry that you will be solving right now, and you'll be submitting it before 9 p.m. Let me open up a short video to determine the acceleration.